Hey awesome artists, so today I'm going to show you two possible ways that you could make your imaginary rainforest animal. First, you'll need you'll just need one piece of white construction paper, or you do have some watercolor paper in your bag. It doesn't need to be that big, so just about your normal piece of paper, so either just one of the white construction pieces of paper, or the watercolor paper. And if you'd like to do it, the first option is, I'll show you, you might need some colored construction paper too if you'd like. But that's up to you. So I'm going to show you and you can decide what you would like to do. Oh, you'll also need your watercolors. So I've got some watercolors and some brushes, and you'll need a cup of water. So you'll need to get a cup of water. Oh, and you don't want to get paint on the table. That's important. So you want to make sure that you ask and you find somewhere you can work inside. Or maybe you could work outside if you have a table outside that it can get messy. If you have newspaper or some magazine ads or something, you can put underneath your paper so you don't get paint on the table. Or I have a tray. You could also use a tray to put your paper down on top of. So just make sure you have a clean workspace so that we don't get in trouble. Okay? All right, so for option one, we're going to make some abstract marks in the background, and then we're going to use those to help us in the next step create our imaginary animal. So I've got my watercolors, so I'm going to dip my brush in just a little bit of water, which it's kind of hard to see. So here you go, I just take a little dip of the water, and then I dip it in my watercolors. So maybe I want to go with a green because it is the rainforest. So maybe I want an animal that kind of camouflages. So for this part, we're just going to make some marks on our paper. And the more water you add, and then the more you kind of rub it together, the more you'll get more stronger pigment. And the thing about watercolors is it's going to dry lighter than it is when you put it on. So for this, I'm just making some marks on my paper. So even one cool technique, you can do a little bit of like a splatter. This is just for the background that we'll make our animal out of. And when you think you're finished, you can take your paper, and as long as, once again, you have something on your table so that it doesn't get messy, you can kind of move it around a little bit, and you can let the watercolors kind of ooze, and then they make some cool abstract designs. There we go. I think that's good. And if you want it to drip a little bit, but it's pretty dry. So now we're going to let this paper dry. We're going to put it off to the side, and we're going to get a piece of construction paper. I wanted to use colored construction paper, but because your background is colored, you could use a white piece of paper. It's up to you. Because if you use a white piece of paper, then you can add in more details. You can paint the details on too. So you're going to get a piece of paper. You're going to fold it in half, and you're going to make a random shape. So you're going to need a pair of scissors. So I have these big scissors, but you have your scissors in your bag. And so I'm just going to cut a shape, and this way it's going to be symmetrical. It's going to be the same on both sides. So the other thing you can do is you can add some like cool technique in the middle. You can do just a little bit of cutting and make it like maybe like gills, like if it's a sea creature. You just don't want to cut it too much, but you see how now I have this really cool looking animal. It almost looks like it has horns and some sort of like a feather on top, and this could maybe be how it breathes. So the next part is we're going to glue this animal on our background when it's dry with our glue stick. So I'm going to let mine dry a little bit more, and we're going to glue it on, and we're going to add on more details. And then we're going to think about what type of animal it is, and maybe where it lives and what it eats, to give some ideas for what types of things we could add to our animal. All right, so now that our paper is dry, we have our cutout shape that we made, our random shape out of paper, construction paper, and we're going to get our glue stick. So we're going to glue on our paper. I actually don't have a glue stick, so you can also use like Elmer's glue, liquid glue too. So basically I'm just going to put just a little bit, you don't want too much glue, just some glue on the little pieces so it doesn't fall off. Alright, and then now you can add details onto your animal. You can use a pencil if you want to use a pencil first, or you can go straight with pen or a marker. You could also paint on top of the construction paper if you'd like. Let's see, I'm going to use a pen and I'm just going to keep adding some details. And then you can think about the next step. We'll talk more about maybe what you want to put in the background, if you want to make some food with your animal, what else you could add. And you keep adding on to your creature, your imaginary rainforest animal. You're welcome to add in as many other materials as you want at home. If you have, I don't know, if you have glitter or if you have tissue paper, you could even add some sticks or some leaves from outside. It's up to you. This is your imaginary rainforest animal. So for instance, I went outside because it was okay. So if you do go outside, you want to make sure and ask that it's okay and maybe ask someone to go with you. But if you want to go outside and maybe find, because it is a jungle after all, if you want to find maybe some leaves or some grass, you might not necessarily be able to glue it onto your paper because it's kind of hard to glue something like this on, but you can put it on your paper and you can make a composition, you can arrange it, and you can take a cool picture of your animal in like a jungle if you want to try that as well. So remember, this is just one idea. It's up to you what you'd like to do. You can paint the whole thing on top instead of adding on other materials that you might find inside or outside. It's your rainforest animal and I can't wait to see it. That's option 1, and now I'll show you option 2. And the other option, option 2, if you don't want to be making the more abstract marks first and then use the construction paper, is you can always just paint an animal with your watercolors. You can draw it first and then you can paint it with your watercolors. So really quickly, let's see, I'll show if I want to make an animal, maybe, remember it's imaginary, so it doesn't have to look real at all. So maybe I want to make like a circle shape for a head, and shapes are always a really great idea or way to use a shape, to think about shapes and patterns and designs and lines when you're not sure exactly what you want to draw. So I added some ears. Maybe I want to add, let's see, maybe I want to add a butterfly wings. That's kind of fun. So I'll add some butterfly wings, and I'll make it also so it has legs. So it has these little feet. Maybe it even has some claws on its feet. And I'm going to make the drawing nice and big, and I don't want to add too much detail with my pencil because I'm going to color it in with a watercolor. So now that I've painted most of the background, you can keep adding more detail, like maybe add some blue in the background, or if you have some markers at home and you want to add some markers or tissue paper or other materials, it's your imaginary creature, so you get to make it how you want. You just want to make sure you fill up the whole paper if you're going to work on one piece of paper like this, and keep working until you've got it all done. I can't wait to see it. All right, so the next step, I came in after my paper was dry and I took either like a Sharpie, or you have black markers, or even if you have colored markers. I was just outlining though and adding detail with pen, and you see how I just added some details. I outlined the different shapes that I drew with watercolor, and then I made some other designs and patterns. I made some circles. This is optional though, you don't have to do this step, but I just wanted to emphasize some of the things that I painted in watercolor. You can keep adding on more detail in your watercolor, or you can look for, if you have any materials at home, again, like if you wanted to add, even if you might not be able to glue it on, you can still add, if you have like mixed media materials, like I found my grass outside for the other option. You could also add some grass or any twigs or something outside just to take a picture. You can put it on top to add a background, or if you have tissue paper, it's your imaginary animal. So whatever you come up with, the more detail the better. So I can't wait to see it.